The Talk Shows family is Nomsa here at Ngose Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Carol Ann Cooper. How are you, Carol Ann?
I'm really well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I'm actually trying to go live here, but my computer is not responding.
Oh no.
I'm not sure what is going on. Um,
Okay.
So the topic today is healing the wounds of relationship exclusion. Carol Ann, you chose this topic. Would you like to explain to the audience what was the motivation behind the topic, please?
Yes, certainly. There's also an aspect of that sort of part of that title was left out and loved, wasn't it? Healing the wounds of relationship exclusion. Um, because you can feel, be left out, but there's still a love that's there that you're perhaps not aware of in that feeling excluded. But yeah, it's interesting that you asked for a relationship topic for today. I haven't, so I decided I'll choose a business one. But what came to mind was something that happened the other day. And this is where this topic sort of arisen from. Uh, my I saw a Facebook post. It just popped up and it literally just hit me in the stomach. It was like, oh, what? I couldn't believe what I was seeing in a way, because I knew nothing about it. And it was my cousins had got together and they'd gone away for the weekend. And there was this, post with some pictures of, cousins on tour, in the place 2024. And it's the cousins of my mum's side of the family where we always used to get together on August Bank holiday for many years. And I used to organise it. And that has sort of fallen apart over the last quite a few years now. But yeah, seeing that, I just suddenly went, oh, and I've just felt totally left out because I just didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard, and I started, your mind goes places, and then I just sort of just thought I just sat and did some work on that. I played some really high vibrational music that you can find on YouTube. I think it was 77 hertz and it's either 111 or 1111, something like that, a really high sort of vibrational mix, and just sat and listened to that because I could feel myself sinking down into that depressed state and wanting to cry and making everything wrong. So I think it's a great topic to actually explore because there's lots of reasons why you might perceive to and feel left out and excluded. And there's also different impacts it can have on you, different ways of it wounding you. And so it's what I thought it'd be great to look at is what are those wounds? How can you feel the impact of being excluded? And then what are the triggers? What can trigger that feeling of exclusion and being left out? And then maybe we can look at some healing things, what actions you can take to help with the healing and to shift it. So yeah, so that's where that's come from.
Yeah, sometimes it is hard to actually accept when you feel like you are being left out. It's also important to actually acknowledge your feelings. Some people intend to ignore them and allow yourself to feel whatever emotions that comes up because we are entitled to feel how we feel, and whether is it sadness, whether is it anger or confusion, as long as you recognize and accepting those emotions, and that will be the first step towards healing, because moving forward you'll be able to look at life in a different perspective, and then you reflect on things, on the experiences that took place, whatever happened in that moment. You you'll be able to actually reflect and like you, Carol Ann, that you you're reflecting on things. And sometimes you may find that we are not being left out, and some people just want to do things for themselves. I've learned this the hard way, to accept life the way it is. Uh, I, I used to think that people should do this, they should do this, I should be doing this. But now I'm in a point where if I see somebody, if I'm not included in something, I don't feel hurt anymore. But before I'll be feeling hurt or anything. Now I'm recognizing that people are entitled for their feelings, whatever they feel, they're entitled for it, whether they're being good or they're being nice. They are entitled to see things the way they see. So I always like see like sometimes the when like people jump into conclusion, or sometimes I am somebody that I'll always keep myself to myself, or sometimes the people will say hurtful things and I'll be like, I ask somebody, like when they have like sometimes when they have a family get together and stuff, if somebody says something that is really really hurtful, I always check with them that are you okay with me coming to your get together? In that way, I need to make sure that people are not inviting, they're not inviting me for the sake of inviting me. And just double check that are
Mm.
you okay? And once that person says they are okay, whatever happens after, if they're lying to me, whatever happens to me, that's their own problems. But I've just
Mm.
realized that sometimes in life we can't always get what we want. And I just work with the feelings that I have. And also sometimes it can be hurtful when you see other people doing things, no excluding you. But me, I just put up popcorns, Carol Ann.
You just put
I've
up what?
popcorns, I put my feet up, popcorns. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's hard work anyway to put up with a conversation with people. So if somebody feels that, wow, I if I feel that this person does not want me to be there, I just celebrate. I've learned this the hard way, because otherwise you get into depression and then you get
Hmm.
sick while people continue celebrating life. So I just go where I'm wanted. Where I'm not wanted, I accept it and I put my hands up and I step back.
Mm. And one of the things you said, it's there's what's called a wound. There's that upset, which can be there, and there's the actual emotional pain, that sort of the sadness. It might be anger, um, even a sort of despair and a sort of a loneliness. That feeling of, oh, I'm not included, or I'm not part of this, and it's quite a strong emotion. And really, as you say, you need to acknowledge it and not make it wrong, um, because it is what is so. It's how it's impacting you. Other sort of ways it can come out is sort of you feel sort of quite low self-esteem, that maybe you're inadequate or unworthy, and sort of not sort of deserving of being a part of that group in some ways. And that's other ways that it can sort of come out and impact you. And I think it's important to actually recognize the impact that it has on you, as you say. And another way is that sort of there's resentment, and there's like, and which you sort of harbor those feelings of anger. But ultimately, you're the one that really gets hurt. And that, as you said, Nomsa, those feelings that you harbor inside of you can make you ill. And that's where you find physical ailments starting to show up because of the emotional or the anger or other sort of issues that, or the ways that it's impacted you. So do recognize them, acknowledge them, and then find ways of letting them go or shifting from it, because you've only got your perspective of the incident. All my cousins did was I didn't get an email. I don't know what went on behind their thinking. Was there any thinking? Or was they were thinking that it got arranged last year when I was in hospital, you know, and maybe they thought I wasn't well enough. I don't know. And until I actually have that conversation and find out, if I choose to, I won't know. So this is where I then have the choice to stay in victim mode or step out of that and go, no, I create my own life and I'll be happy. And it's like, they've got their reasons. They've had a happy time, you know, and there were one or two of the group of cousins that it was about, you know, say my mum's side, there were one or two that weren't there, but there was quite a good number of them there. So I just recognize, be with, let that emotion be with you for a while, but don't let it overtake you. That's the key thing. Observe it and go from there. Are there any other sort of ways it could impact, do you think, NOMSA? Sort of make you feel, apart from the resentment, those emotional pains and sort of low self-esteem, what other ways do you think?
I think most like 90% of people get angry. They go to this anger place where
Mm,
they feel the rejection. They feel they feel that they are not good enough. That's why they are not being invited, excluded in that event. Uh, the mind goes on and on and on. It plays with your emotions, but at the end of the day, like you said, Carol, and that you don't know what went on. I always say to my family, because sometimes when we're doing like a get together, or like people are doing get together, like, or if there is something, a big event that they're doing at home, I always say to each and every family member, it's their responsibility to invite people, because you could easily forget somebody, not unknowingly. You could just easily forget, miss out the other person, the one person, and that person gets angry, but you have not done it. Your intentions are not to miss them out. So I always say, if you have family members on your phone, and when you receive an invite, if the invite says the whole family, make sure that you do your work. I always tell my family that, make sure that you do your work. It means they invite other people, make sure that nobody misses out, because sometimes the people will be like, oh, this person is doing the event, it's their job to invite. I'm like, no, it's not. Your job as a person, as a family, is to make sure that everybody's there. So sometimes you may find that people, they've not done it unknowingly, they've just it's not their intentions to actually exclude you. But and then if you don't know that, you get angry. But some people, they just like to poke. They're like, this is my event and I'm not going to invite this person. But sometimes it can hurt other people. Make sure that if you truly, truly love somebody, I have experienced people, like it mostly happens to weddings. It happens to funeral. People don't invite other people, and they're like, why is this person invited? Why am I not invited? I've had so many people like they are angry, like this person was invited, or maybe it's friends of a friend that I know. They're like, oh, this person was invited to this wedding and I was never invited. I listened to before I used to get angry, Carol Annie, but now I listen to, my Geo, my father in the Lord, Dr. Olukoya, he teaches these things like this, similarly like this, that, okay, when you get married, you don't have the money to pay for everybody to come to your wedding for 600 guests to 300 guests or 100 guests. Why not get married and just go home if you don't have money? Because if you have this big celebration and then after that you have in debt, you are in debt because of the wedding, and these people, they never said they were hungry, and you showing off and you bring them to your wedding, and then by the end of the day you end up with this big bill. And he's like, why not just do the right thing and just uh, get married, go home, maybe have a small party, invite really small people to come and celebrate with you instead of showing off. So I'm like, people would not understand. They would not understand. But
Mm.
now that I'm listening to him, my mindset is different now. How I think, what people should do, I'm just like, people can do whatever they want. They don't invite me, that means they can't feed me. Because that's why he's saying, he's saying, Nomsa, if you have food, there's no need to
Mm.
cry to go to the wedding, eat the food at home. So that's how I see it. That sometimes there are some things that we may see it as a problem, but it's not. It's because of how our expectations, what we expect a relationship to be. So if you find yourself in that situation, like where Carol Annie is finding herself in a situation, you might need to focus on forgiveness. This does not necessarily mean to forgive the person who has excluded you. It means especially if that person haven't apologized or shown remorse. So instead of you just focus on letting go and go of any resentment or bitterness that might be holding you back from moving forward, because you don't know people's intentions. So just for me personally, I'll say, if you feel that I've had to so many people, Carol, and I'll be like, sometimes I don't ask now. If I go to an event and see somebody's not there, and then I meet them in town, I don't ask them, why were you not there? Because I know I'm gonna get it like, you got invited. I was never invited, and I was really surprised that I didn't get invited. But sometimes we get to a place where people just want to, like, if you were to meet me before, I would have said, I love to have a wedding with the 600 guests or 300 guests. Maybe with my family, I might have 300 because my dad comes from a big family and my stepdad, they come from a big family, and my mom comes from a big family as well. So if I do that, like if I say, if you had met me before, I'll be like, I want a big wedding, I want to be a princess. But now mindset is different. I don't want to be a princess.
Mm.
I just want to enjoy. If I was to get married, I just want to enjoy
Mm.
that day, especially with the intimacy, having intimacy with people that I love. Like they say, sometimes having big followers is good for business. Is ain't good. Like my Instagram, I have big
Mm.
following. I can't have intimacy with the people that I used to. I have to go
Mm.
and find them on Instagram, my friends. Like I have to scroll down, I have to type their names in order for me to support them. I just like that intimacy. But having said that, I think sometimes people do it to just poke and say, or simply they say, I don't like you around, or people changes, they
Mm.
change their mind. But I always say just go with the flow. Whatever, God is a God that is an amazing God. He loves us unconditional. And for me, I always say, if I depend on my mom might let me down. She might hurt me or I might hurt her. So the best way is just to depend on God, not the flesh. Whatever the flesh decide, I put my hands up and I say that's okay. I don't know about you, Kiro, and what do you think about those? Some people they stop talking to each other.
Mm,
What
mm,
what advice can you give those who really would not forgive people like when they exclude them to their events
mm. Um,
and they
I
decide
would
I don't
say
want to
look at,
talk to that person?
yeah, it's recognize that the only person you're hurting is yourself, because actually holding on to unforgiveness, you're holding on to resentment and anger, and that eats away at you inside. And I'm aware of still feeling, because when you mentioned weddings, there was one wedding in the family many years ago. Um, my brother's daughter and his son, you know, they chose to not invite us, and yet we've been really close with them when they'd grown up. And even my two daughters didn't get invited, and they've been close friends, and it really hurt at the time. And I can still feel a little going on there, even though I've done some forgiveness, but I think there's still something. There's a level of something missing there for me. There's a wanting to go and have it out with her, But and as you can see, that only eats away at me. So it's it's letting it go, and it's recognizing it's not about forgiving the person, the actions. It's maybe just forgiving the soul, but we're not condoning the actions. They did what they did. But by forgiving the soul of that person, it allows you to move on. It allows you to let go of the anger, the resentment, or whatever it feels like inside your head or your body. And it allows you to heal and move on. Because otherwise, there's still a part of you that's, still trapped back then, and you're not able to move on. And it can impact other relationships because you're constantly got that in the background. And therefore, you might not trust those people that you start to get to know, or wanting to build a relationship with, because that niggle's still in the background. Well, what if they do the same thing? So it does allow you to move on. And I think that's what you've got to recognize. So if you can somehow maybe just write a letter to that person, just write it all out, how it made you feel, and what it did to you, and you can send it or not, or you can just burn it. But sometimes just writing it out helps to get it out, and then come to that place of forgiving the soul of that person, because you choose to move on and live your life, all of you, in the present, and feel that joy and happiness in your body. So that's really what I would say, and it's how I work, and it's how I'm still working on it at times, as you can hear with certain events, um and I will come to a place eventually of forgiveness. Sometimes things take a little bit longer than others, but it's the first step is that recognition, recognizing how it's impacted you, and actually what it's doing to you, and actually saying, no, I'm worth more than this. I'm better than this. And find ways of letting it go. And if you can't do it for yourself, reach out, because one of us here can help you. It's not something you have to do on your own. So find help, talk to somebody that um, a friend, a member of the family that is impartial, that that you feel that you can trust and talk to. Or if you haven't got that, then come and reach out to one of us, or reach out to some other professional person that can really help you, because it's about your mind, your mental health, because it can, as I say, it wiggles away in your brain, it wiggles away in your body, and chews away, and it colors everything else, and so stops you from moving on completely, moving on. So what sort of things can trigger? What do you think there are some triggers? And because you mentioned things like weddings and not being invited, but are there some other triggers that you know about, Namsa? You're muted.
Mention the soul. The soul is the problem. When a soul feels defiled, it can go to a place of unforgiveness where it does not want to forgive unless it decided to let it go.
Mhm.
I've realized that when I'm going through like the healing now, I'm on 100 and I think 140 days or 42 days today,
Mhm.
going through this healing that I'm doing. I'm recognizing the hurt that I thought every unforgiveness where I have locked myself, my soul, where I thought I was protecting myself. By doing that, I actually closed some part of my feelings. So going through this healing is helping me to recognize that sometimes what I think that the way I put like what I imagine like life it should be. Uh, Sometimes my way is not my way. I'm learning to let people be because sometimes there's so many things that can trigger if my feelings are not met. That can trigger anger. That can trigger, maybe I have the expectations. It's like if we have expectations with friends, like with a relationship, but for me, I am very, very lucky. This is natural. It happens natural that I have no expectations from anybody. Even at Ngozi talk shows, I think, Kero Anne, you've realized that whatever, if I ask somebody, I always give people options that it's okay to say no.
Mm.
Because I find that if I put the expectations before someone else's needs, I'm actually imprisoning that person, taking their choices away. So that can take when our feelings are not met, like when hope is not, if I have a hope in something and that hope is not met, it can cause anger, and then you need to grieve. It can cause resentment. It can actually destroy you. Because there are some people that they have so much expectations in this world when it comes to people. Um, when we manifest, we say we're gonna manifest, but if the results, we don't get the results that we want, that's when we are like, this does not work. It doesn't work. This manifestation, it doesn't work. And then we stop doing the manifestation. We like join the club like everybody else. But it doesn't mean that it's not that the manifestation, it doesn't work. It means that today it wasn't your day, but just keep going and keep trying and keep moving forward. So when you feel excluded in things, know that it was never your event in the first place. Let people have their own privacy. But when that person comes back, because you need to have boundaries at the same time, when that person comes back now, they want you to be there, you need to ask them and say, listen, we're friends, friends that look out for each other. you did that event, you did not invite me. What is so different now that you invite me? I find that being straightforward with people, black and white, it helps. It just helps. Just it wipes away the agony, because where there's no meant to be agony, you may find that people are angry with each other, while the other person had really serious reasons, maybe simple, they can afford it. And then maybe we don't know what you don't know what is going on, or simply they feel that you're not good enough to be
But you don't know until you
until
talk
you
with
are.
them. And I think it's the communication
Yeah,
is key here. And actually, lack of communication can be one of the triggers
yeah,
that actually creates that sense of disconnection. It's like, and as you were saying, that then maybe there's some expectation that you've placed on something, and but you've not communicated that expectation. So how can people know that you're expecting them to include you or to invite you? And if you don't actually set that, expectation out there and actually talk about it. So this is where then, yeah, your feelings are not met because you have the expectation. And so, yeah, you can withdraw because you feel isolated. And one of the ways that you deal with it is you just withdraw and isolate yourself. And I know that was my first reaction was, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't want anything more to do with him then. Just withdraw, but that doesn't solve anything. And it's okay, maybe just go and withdraw for a bit, but then come back out again, get in touch, communicate, and just share what happened and how it was for you so that you can then get their side of it. Because very often it's never how you think it is.
no,
It's very rarely how you think it is. And it's all in our head. And I know how our minds can make up things because there's a gap, there's something we don't know. It will make up a story. We're very good at creating stories. And I discovered that last year in hospital. I've become aware of how my mind made up so much. I had more hallucinations than I realized I had, you know, um, because I didn't know what was actually going on outside. I made up stories about it because that seemed so real to me at the time and plausible. But actually, it was nonsense. It wasn't true at all. You mean about the one about me hearing helicopters? I really thought I heard helicopters and that the nurses were taking emergency equipment out so that these helicopter people could go and do emergency rescues. That's while I was in ICU. And then after a few days, I was going, well, where's the helicopters? Because I couldn't hear any, thinking they've moved me. But no, Ruby's still in her bed over there. And I was looking for the slots that I thought I was seeing in the wall, but they're no longer there. And the nurses aren't doing what I thought they were doing before. But it wasn't until I actually had a conversation with my daughter, quite some months later, that I said to her, with her about that I thought there was helicopters and that, and she said, "No, Mum, there were no helicopters, but you kept talking about them." And she said, "I was really worried that you were going to come home and still be talking nonsense." And she said, "I spoke to the doctors and said, is she going to come home like this? Because she's just talking nonsense." Um, but no, I haven't come home. I don't think I'm talking nonsense anymore because I'm much more aware of what is real. But having that conversation with her, all of a sudden, I went, okay. So I was able to let it go. It stopped being an annoying anxiety within me, thinking, well, I heard helicopters, but actually it was all in my head. I made up. I don't know why. I don't know what I heard or why I made that up. And I don't think I ever will. But it doesn't matter anymore because I was able to have the conversation and get the truth of what was there. There were no helicopters. I was having hallucinations, you know. So again, this is where it comes back to whatever happens, whatever the other people do is what they do. It's what story you make up as a result of what they've done that causes the impact on you. And I remember, so there's things like changes in dynamics, roles in family. And I remember when I went away to college, and in my head, I guess I held everybody where they were. I never thought life went on for them. And every time I came home for the holidays, I felt left out because they'd lived their lives without me and I wasn't a part of it. And I really got quite upset at one time and remembered sharing with my boyfriend, or he was my fiance at the time. I just feel left out. I don't feel like I'm part of this. And it's only because I was at college. And yes, they had their lives to get on with. Why should they just sit around waiting for me to come back and then, oh, now we can pick our lives back up again, and carry on because Carol's here. That's what I was called then. It's only now I call myself Carol Ann. So again, that's one of the triggers. It's recognizing what causes you to feel left out. And actually, is it true? Is it real? Or is it something that you've made up, a story? And that's where the healing can then come. Having a conversation and really understanding the truth of it. So I think
I think, Kiro Ann, are we live?
it still says live streaming service. So what makes you say we're not live?
I don't know. On Restream, it says we are live,
Yeah.
but on actually Facebook, it says we're not, was live.
Oh, it it came up that it was live. It was we'd gone live and I pressed OK at the beginning. So we're live somewhere. Yeah.
We are live on not sure where are we?
Where are we? Where are we? Who's able to hear us today? I wonder.
We're live on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, it shows that we're live, but on
Okay.
any other channels,
There,
um,
we're not live. Oh,
hold
we've
on.
been cut out. We've been excluded. Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
We're
What
not
happened?
actually live.
All that conversation. Oh, it's still there on LinkedIn though. So can you not get the video and upload it somewhere else? I know it's not live at the time, but
Let me see LinkedIn.
how can we deal with this? Again, see, it's something happens.
LinkedIn,
And
it
this is
says
what we
we are
can.
live on the phone.
Yeah.
And let me check Facebook. Facebook, we're
Hmm.
definitely not live.
No.
Even YouTube. Let's just
Oh.
I'm not sure what happened. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not sure what happened, but we're live on Instagram,
Okay.
so I'm not sure what happened.
So are we going to carry on or are we going to?
We have to carry on
We have to.
because we are live on LinkedIn.
Okay. And Instagram.
Yeah.
That's okay. So people can see these things happen. For somehow we've
So what do you think, Carol Ann, if somebody is going through like they feel that they've been excluded, what advice would you give that person? They feel really that the other person is not included them in, they feel anger, really anger.
mm, there's quite a few things. I think actually what comes to mind is maybe just do some tapping or do some work around the anger. Um, where has this anger come from? Because very often it's not that person that's excluded you that has caused the anger. There's something deeper that may have happened a long time ago. And so until you actually deal with the anger, because don't reacting in that anger will only make the situation worse.
Yeah,
And I know the the reaction is, oh, I want to get back at them. I really want you to get, and then the anger takes over. But it's working with the anger. Let heal that anger, dilute it, come to a place where you're more relaxed, you're in a more loving space, because then you can actually respond and you can reach out and then you can share from a place of that calmness. That this is how that impacted me. It made me feel really angry. And because I felt excluded, and that made me feel really angry. And if you don't feel that you can talk with that person and say that, write it out. As I said before, just write it. Maybe write them a letter and just share. But it needs to come from a place of, this is how your actions made me feel. It's not a case of, you made me feel like this, because that antagonizes the whole situation. And, I felt excluded because you didn't include me or you didn't write me or whatever the reason was, or whatever the action was that had you feel excluded and then feel anger and say it made me feel really angry. And I wanted to really lash out and hit out because I was so angry. I just like to understand what's going on. And if you can't get an answer, just keep working on and keeping yourself calm and just go, okay, walk away, walk away. And I mentioned EFT before, emotional freedom technique, tapping, just tapping different parts. So like there's the top of the head, this anger, this anger. And then you can perhaps tap the collarbone here, this anger, this anger. And then there's other points around here, around the side, the corner of the nose. And then there's the side of the eye, there's under the eye, there's under the nose, and there's the chin. There's those points. You can just tap round them and the collarbone. Just say this anger, this anger. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how angry are you? And has it come down? And then tap again. And go back to the scale until you can bring it, down to a lower number and notice how you're feeling. Because you can then respond rather than react. And that's how you can move things forward. And if you find that that's hard to do because you're still chewing over and going over what they've done to you and it's made you feel like this, reach out and ask for some help, because you won't resolve anything by staying in that anger and continually chewing over that story in your head that they did this to you. What they did made you feel like this. They did not do this to you. And that's what you really need to understand. There's things happening within inside you, there's triggers that have happened. And it's being able to come to understand what's the trigger. What had you be triggered in such a way to feel excluded? And do you really need to feel that way? Okay, they did leave you out, a whole group of friends, they didn't invite you. It can be really hurtful. I know how, my grandchildren have felt. But it is part of getting to know yourself. Think of it as an opportunity to really dive in and see, has it affected your self-worth? Because if you feel that you're not worthy of being included, and just stand up and go, no, make a stand. I'm worthy of more than this. So are they truly your friends? Are they truly people you really, really want to hang around with anymore? Or have you grown and can move on and find people that want to include you? It's down to you at the end of the day. You have a choice. You can wallow in the anger, the despair, that, oh, I don't feel worthy, they're not my friend, they've done this to me. Or you can go, no, that's what they did. This is how it's made me feel, and I refuse to let that happen anymore. And I'll move on. I will find other people who will treat me and say how in your head, this is how I deserve to be treated. I deserve to be treated with respect. I deserve to be included. I deserve to have great communication, whatever it is that's missing there for you. So that's really what I think I'd say in that respect. Get to know your boundaries and actually set them. Set them. Make a stand for yourself. And again, if you find that hard, reach out. I know I've said it a few times today. Reach out, because you're only hurting yourself. This is where I think I'm saying it, because I've seen so many people just wallow and become ill, really ill, physically ill, because of the emotional impact that it's had on them. So what else is there? Anything else you want to add in there, Namsa?
Um, I think at the same time, Kiro Ann says reach out, and also cultivating self-love is really important. Engage in activities and practice that nature your self-esteem is very, very important. And sense of worth. And Carol Ann mentioned that whether it's pursuing hobbies or that you enjoy, or whether practice mindfulness or taking care of your physical health, prioritize on your self-care as you heal is very, very important. And also remember that people have their own intentions that we don't know about. And also remember, from healing from anything, it takes time. Exclusion, it takes time. It's okay to give yourself the space and the grace to work through it at your own pace. Is really, really important. Don't say, okay, just because I've been hurt, I've got to be healing. Why am I feeling this way? Why things are happening the way they are? Find a meaningful light in things. Where there is a problem, find a meaning in it, and find your purpose as well at the same time. And life, we write our own story. We can rewrite how our day should look like. We can rewrite our past. We can rewrite our present. Um, just know that when you go through this healing, just tell yourself that I am willing. I am healing each day at a time. I'm just taking my own time. Every day for me is different, and just have this beautiful affirmation that you can say to yourself for me is when I'm going through uh, challenges in life, if I've been hurt by something, I learn to trust myself and speak my truth within myself. I trust my intuition and my voice matters at that moment. So I try to create uh, and talk to myself, and I trust my feelings. And I tell my feelings that it's okay, Nomsa, to feel the way you feel. But at the same time, you got to let it go. If you feel anger, if I'm feeling anger, that means there's something that is triggering something within. So I always try to check with myself, why am I feeling this anger? Or sometimes the people feel anger because you've created so much energy, put that energy in a relationship, and then unfortunately, people either they are ungrateful or sometimes it's either they are just they it's easy to hurt somebody unknowingly, or sometimes people they just hurt you because they just love it. They're like, I'm not gonna have this person in this event, but they want you whenever it suits them. So this is where you have to ask yourself that, am I in the right relationship with this person? Because I am worthy and I love and respect myself. But why is this person wanting me to feeling this way? They're not making me feel this way. But is that event being with that person? So why am I feeling this way? Embrace your vulnerability is very, very important. So whatever that might be, I don't know if you want to add anything, Pero Ann.
Hmm? Sorry, I missed that last bit.
Embrace vulnerability.
Mm,
Just tell
yeah.
yourself that I embrace my vulnerability. It's not a weakness. Some people see it as a weakness, but it's a courage act of authenticity. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, um, it means that next time when you go and make a connection with other people, you foster a genuine, you connect with people genuinely, and you will grow in a deeper intimacy with others. So it's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, it's an important point you raised there that actually vulnerability, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, is actually a strength, not a weakness. Because from that, you can actually find yourself being able to move forward. And this is where, by sharing what's happening for you, being vulnerable, there's power. There's power in that. So certainly, yeah, allow yourself that vulnerability. I just was having a thought about other ways that this relationships healing, sort of feeling excluded, can actually have roots in the past, and also sort of roots in things that happened to you as a child. It's sort of there's a cultural um, expectation or a social expectation. And I remember um, as a child being at my aunt and uncle's with my parents, and my dad was helping my uncle with his garage. They were building a garage, and I wanted to help them. And I was told, no, only my brother could do that because he's a boy and I'm a girl. I have to go inside and um, be with my mum and aunt and help them in the kitchen. And I was like, I was so angry at the time. And I know that that really hit me. And I did. I felt completely excluded from that activity. But I've recognized that that's colored my thoughts as I've grown up. And even as an adult, I realized I was attempting to get into places I kept going into, like when I first started getting into the speaking world or this personal development world, it seemed to me like it was only men only, and I felt excluded. So I was constantly proving a point that I'm excluded from that world and it's not for me. Whereas as I've worked on that and let that go and seen it for the truth, it's just It's just not true. Yes, it was there is more men in that speaker world and personal development world than women, but there has been a shift over the years. But I was only focusing on that. And the more I let that go, the more I've now been able to shift and see how many more women are out there, speakers and are actually in that personal development world. And so this is where you can if you recognize maybe where it's happened as a child from some incident that happened that was so innocent, that was just because it's a cultural expectation, and that you can actually change that yourself and heal that inner child and allow yourself to then shift your focus, because then you'll find relationships will change. And I'm not, I don't find myself comparing and feel as if I'm competing in a world that isn't mine. I'm now just in a world that is completely mine because people are showing up and things are getting easier. Opportunities are getting easier. I'm finding people are making different friendships that are feeling more real and caring. So again, it's helping you to look in the right place for those relationships, for people that care and that include you, you know, and make you feel included, make you feel worth something, you know. So again, this is something you can look at. What the trigger is, it could be something deeper rooted in a child experience. So yeah, just notice how that can actually color your whole life and hold you, you know. And now it's like, oh, for heaven's sakes, you know, it's what my parents believed at the time, and it's it's an experience that you can learn from. And if you allow yourself to learn, this is where you can grow and maybe allow for it not to be perpetuated. So it's about helping yourself to grow and allow your relationships to grow and flourish. Otherwise, they wither and die, you know. And I think to leave our listeners with this quote that I loved it, by Mandy Hale. A season of loneliness and isolation is when the caterpillar gets its wings. Remember that next time you feel alone. So I just thought that had a beautiful picture to it. So what would you like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, for me, I would say trust in your journey,
Mm,
a faith in the path that you're on, and when you have faith, know that every step you take is leading you closer to your highest potential. And as you continue trusting yourself and speak your truth, may you find a greater clarity in your life, confidence, and empowerment in every aspect of your life. Remember that you are worthy, you are enough, and you have everything you need within you to live authentically and wholeheartedly. So don't think yourself otherwise. The journey that we are taking in this life is between you and God. And if you want to connect with us and you want coaching, please do connect with us at www.hseia.com. We have coaching, so you can click the buttons if you want to inquire about coaching, or if you want to find love, that special person, please do go to the application page. And God bless everyone. Live with grace. See you tomorrow. I think tomorrow I'm with Grant and Amanda. And see you